Hello, welcome back. It's been a while. I've got to figure out like a system, you know? I feel like I can't raw dog every intro. Like I don't know, I'm not creative enough yet. Maybe one day. But um I'm here to rant. I'm here to rant. I'm here to rant. I don't want to rant for super long, but I saw the Odyssey the other day with a buddy of mine. Finally, like it came out. I mean, not like finally. It's been out for like 2 or 3 days, so nothing ridiculous or crazy there. But it's been out for a couple days, and I really wanted to go see it. And I went and I saw it, and it was all right. You know, I didn't think it was like the greatest movie I've ever seen or anything. I wasn't particularly like expecting all that much. Like I wasn't expecting this to be like the best movie that I've ever seen or anything, but I saw people online compare this shit to Lord of the Rings at one point. I'm a big fan of the Escape Pod podcast, and they both gave it like a 9 out of 10, like an 8.5 or 9 out of 10 each. And so, I don't agree with them most of the time, but part of me was hoping for the best. But I'm gonna give it an all right. I'm gonna give it like a really solid 7, like 6 to 6.5 maybe out of 10. Um, and I don't really have a ton to say because it was really long and like a lot of stuff happened, but I just mostly have like some brief thoughts on like different things basically. So obviously, if you don't know the Odyssey, spoiler warning. However, this book is like 4,000 years old, so like low key, that's on you, I guess. Um, so there's some creative liberty, so it's not 100% direct from the book, from what I understand. Like Christopher Nolan took some like liberties and changed a couple of things to like alter the story and like the purpose of what was like the purpose of the story basically, right? And um essentially, briefest summary ever. Essentially, the War of Troy. Odysseus and Agamemnon hatched a plan. They were gone on the beach of Troy for like 10 years, basically. They were trying to fight him one on one. Obviously, Troy wasn't budging, and they were chilling within their own walls. And then they hatched this plan where they built a giant horse. Obviously, the story of Troy is super famous, right? So they built this giant horse. And they hid in the horse basically, and then they Troy opened the gates, let the horse in, and then that night they hopped out of the horse and they killed a bunch of people and then opened the gates, and then the rest of the soldier and the armies came in and they flooded the whole city basically, and they killed everybody. And then the Odyssey is the story of Odysseus, one of those generals, the guy who hatched the plan to do this in the first place. It's the story of him and his crew getting home. And essentially it takes him 8 or 9 years to get home because he runs into like they go basically island hopping essentially. Like there's a Cyclops, there's Circe, there's the Goliath, there's Calypso, and then he eventually makes it back home after a long time, and it's basically the story of his journey coming home, his crew dying, and whatever maybe before he gets home and then retakes the throne, and so I don't really feel like I have a ton to say like I normally do. My brain's honestly just kind of tired, but I did just want to put this out. So I figured I'm just gonna rant like my brief highs of the movie, and then my lows of this movie. Some of the stuff I really, really, really enjoyed. I'm not gonna go step by step or anything, but just some of the stuff I really, really, really enjoyed, and some of the stuff that I honestly thought like wasn't very good. So I'm gonna start with the highs because pretty much all of my negatives are because of one thing. Like I only have one negative that's kind of like directorial. For the most part, most of the decision in the movie I liked. So I guess let me just start with the positives. So for one, the positives, the cinematography is awesome. I think the shots, the locations they shot at, the fact that it's all practical effects were incredible, and you could tell that each scene was like a massive production, basically. So you could tell, and I really thought that was really cool, and I really enjoyed that, and like that was just really awesome to see. Um, my cat is meowing. I'll be out in a second, but that was a big highlight for me was that it was all practical effects and like that was cool. Um, Another really really big highlight for me was okay. You know what though? You know what though? I don't really feel like I can talk about all these positives without like talking about the negative attached to it. So I'm gonna say the negative attached to it, and then like I'll explain what I mean. So like when this movie was coming out, I saw an interview of a clip of Matt Damon and Tom Holland, and the interview was like, "It's kind of strange how your character doesn't say father, he says dad instead." And then Tom Holland replies and is like, "Well, you know, it's not like historically accurate to Greece. They didn't say father. Obviously, they're not Greek, right?" And at first, I didn't think this was gonna bother me, right? I was like, "Yeah, like obviously, I expect them to speak English, of course, right? Like they're filming a movie, like it's gonna be set, you know, or like they're gonna speak English, obviously." What I didn't anticipate is how bad it was. Because like what prime example, okay, and this I wanted to rant really quickly about Game of Thrones again. I was gonna make another video, but it's just not worth another video for me to say it. But this is something that I think that Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones do exceptionally well. And there's plenty of other movies as well. Like The 300 I thought was pretty good at this too. But it's like I'm not expecting a movie to be historically accurate. Like I'm not expecting a movie like this to be 100% true, especially because you know that he's changing a little bit stuff directorially. Like adaptations always change a little bit of something, right? And I wasn't expecting that like it was going to be 100% accurate. Like the dialogue was going to be perfect. I wasn't expecting every single character to speak Greek or have a Greek accent, right? But what I did expect was for it literally not to be American. This is the problem. It's distinctly American. There's no like accent. There's no change in depth from any character's dialogue. And it's super prevalent. It's so bad. It is so bad. Like Tom Holland's character, he plays Telemachus, right? So that's Odysseus' son. And at a point, Telemachus is like going to the other general. I don't know if it's his uncle or just a friend or whatever. I honestly don't know. But he basically goes over to one of the other people who actually came home from the Trojan War, essentially is what it was called. Obviously, and he was like, "Do you know where my dad is?" And I'm like, I do not buy this. That ruins the immersion for me because he's like, "Do you know what happened to my dad?" It's not like, "Do you know what happened to my father?" It's not like he has his English accent. He's speaking American, and he's like, "Yeah, do you know what happened to my dad?" And I'm like, that sounds so awkward. That sounds so awkward. And it's not just Tom Holland. That's just the one that like I think was honestly the worst. But it's like every character speaks like this in a movie where like yes, it's in one, you know, city, country, whatever the fuck, but um like the reason that I brought up Game of Thrones is because it's like those I feel like Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings do a really good job, right? Of they're not set in one particular like country, but every character has some unique accent or whimsicalness, right? Like Littlefinger, for example, he's not speaking American. He doesn't really have like an accent per se, but he's not speaking American, you know? Jon Snow, he's British. They let him keep his British accent. Same with Robb Stark. Ned Stark isn't British, but he's got a way of speaking. So does Cat Stark, right? Like so does Arya, so does Sansa. It's not like British, but they all have like a sort of spin on an accent that's not just like blatantly American, especially not when America isn't supposed to exist for another like couple thousand years. And it's really blatant in this movie. And like for like Anne Hathaway's performance is unbelievably unreal in this film. The way that she delivers some of her lines and just her generally in this movie, she's fucking amazing. But even still, it's like I'm watching her phenomenal acting and I'm thinking about this and I'm like, wow, this is really amazing scene, but it just doesn't fit this movie. Like, why is Anne Hathaway speaking like this? Like, when she's supposed to be Penelope, the Queen of Ithaca. And like, it ruined the immersion for me. And it sounds like I'm nitpicking, but I think it's a big deal because, like I said, Game of Thrones does a phenomenal job of doing this. Lord of the Rings does a phenomenal job of doing this. The Hobbits, right? They don't have like a Hobbit accent, but they do not speak like normal English. There's a line that Matt Damon says. Matt Damon plays Odysseus. And there's a line that Penelope and him say, and they echo like from the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie, where they're trying to escape with each other, and he goes, "Yeah, we're gonna chase the escaping sun." And I'm like, see, that's a really pretty line. The way they deliver it though, in just straight American, it feels out of the blue, and it just felt so weird. And they do this all the time. While I'm on the topic of the characters not sounding or speaking like they're from this different kind of universe. The outfits. I don't think the outfits are bad. I don't think changing them to make it so they're not historically accurate is a bad thing. I think a little bit of pizzazz here and there or changing it up is like part of what being a movie maker and making kind of a story your own. But in the movie, the rest of the sets look real. Like everything about it looks real, except for what they're wearing. Like what they're wearing looks like you're watching a play. Like my buddy Jay, I went and I saw it with him, and he was like, it looked like I was watching a play just on a theater screen. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of how it feels. I agree. And so, like, that's kind of my general overall sentiment with this movie. Is like some of it was unbelievable. I think thematically it was incredible, and I think that there's a lot to really love about the movie, the way that it was shot, the direction that Christopher Nolan took. But I could every single time there was like a fucking amazing scene, it was immediately followed up by flat acting or poor dialogue mixed with a bad accent, mixed with a bad wardrobe. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, there's no way that this is the same movie. Like, there's no way. Like, I don't know. I was just like, I don't expect everyone to be Greek or speak Greek, but I do expect it to not be like this bad. You know what I mean? And Matt Damon plays Odysseus, so like I would argue the main character of this story, obviously the main character of this, he's the one who had the most growth from start to finish. Like, for me, Matt Damon, that like another, there's a couple of scenes where he's fucking amazing as Odysseus. Where like as this character, I'm like, wow, like he really plays this dude fucking well. And then there's other scenes where I'm like, why did you cast Matt Damon for this? And I feel like every character had that in this film. I think there were too many A-listers. Like, that is a problem. I saw that online, and I was like, yeah, I don't know. Like, we'll see, what they bring to the role. And I do feel that way. The only person that I don't feel that way about was Travis fucking Scott. Which is ridiculous for me to say. But Travis Scott was in this movie, and he was awesome. He played the bard at the very beginning and the very end, and he was really consistent and really fucking awesome. So, I mean, like, that's basically my main thoughts, right? Like, I'll talk about the theme in a second, or what I interpret the theme to be, but on the whole, I felt like the movie kind of was, like, alright, but it had some really good chunks in it, if that makes sense. Like, some of it was really incredible, but on the whole, I kept, like, losing immersion because I just felt like the acting was so flat. It was just inconsistent. Like, some scenes with every actor would be good, some scenes with every actor would be really bad. Like, it was inconsistent from scene to scene. I thought the wardrobe just looked like you were watching a play, so some of it looked really fake. I thought some of the progression of the story happened kind of choppily. Like, for example, when they go to Hades, they just kind of show up at Hades, an army of the dead pulls up, like, I believe, yeah, we go to hell, sorry, and then an army of the dead pulls up, and then Hades shows up, and he just starts talking to him, and everyone's like, yeah, this is just like how normal life goes, and I'm like, you're staring at an army of the dead, like, you're telling me you're not, like, kind of freaked out a little bit more than that, um, so, I mean, that's honestly, like, my main thoughts. I don't have much to say outside of that. Like, I thought some of it was choppy because I just felt like because they were trying to include so much of the story, like he starts in Troy and then he goes to this island and then this island and then this island and then this island and then home. They had to fit like a lot of story into a 3-hour movie. And that's another like positive I'll give it. I didn't really feel like it was 3 hours long. I like enjoyed watching it from start to finish. I just couldn't really get immersed in it, and I didn't think it was like the best film I've ever seen. But like I didn't really feel the 3 hour runtime, so that's a really cool positive. Like I appreciate that. Um, but what else? What else? Um, but I didn't sleep all that great last night. I guess another thing that I would say is like one thing that I didn't necessarily like. Okay, so like I'm kind of spazzing all over the place. That's my fault. I'm gonna talk about my biggest positive for the movie were the changes that Christopher Nolan made to Odysseus's character. Because from what I understand and what I remember is Odysseus in the book was kind of a dickwad, and in this movie he is less of a dickwad, and you're meant to sympathize more with him as a character, right? Like the thing that I loved the most about this, my favorite scene in this movie, and I think it's one of the best scenes of just cinema I've seen in a really long time, was towards the end of the movie. They show you the whole Trojan horse sequence. So they show them building the horse, getting in the horse, lying to one of the soldiers to get them killed so that they believe it really is a gift from the gods, so that the Trojans bring. Wait, yeah. So that the Trojans, the people of Troy, whatever they're called, bring it into their home, and then you have the sequence of them hopping out, killing some of the guards, running over, opening the gates of Troy, and then everyone coming in and killing everybody. And that scene was so tragic because the story that I gathered from this movie is that Odysseus, at the start of the movie, there's I think it's like the opening scene, if I remember right, or one of the opening scenes, is that Odysseus is hunting with a bow, and he strums his bow to let his prey know that he's there, right? Because he believes it's dishonorable to kill something that doesn't know it's being hunted. Same thing when it comes to fighting. He always lets the opponent know that he's there, so it's an honorable fight. Like, he believes he's being honorable like that, and he believes, and he's following Zeus's law, is what they say, right? But in the movie, basically, by lying to the people of Troy, they break Zeus's law, and he destroys his own honor, and he believes that the deaths of every single one of his soldiers and the deaths of every single Trojan, I believe those are the Trojans. If I'm wrong, I'm so sorry, but I'm going to keep saying it for like my own brain. And he believes that he's responsible for every single one of their deaths. He believes that he is the sole reason that the carnage of Troy happened. And he believes that because he was so dishonorable, the sea people are going to come and lay waste to the rest of Ithaca, lay waste to Sparta and all of the cities, and they're coming to change the world and destroy Zeus's law. And it's a really beautiful overarching plot when he realizes that he was the sea people, he destroyed Zeus's law, and now that plague is spreading everywhere. And that's really cool. And you see him on the journey home. He's realizing you can see the PTSD, the survivor's guilt, and the guilt he feels from dishonoring himself and Zeus's law, and he believes he doesn't deserve to come home. And that's a really compelling character because they're at war. He's honoring an oath to go show up and do it. And he realizes through all of these like quote unquote trials and islands that like he isn't responsible for the decisions his men make as well. Because they helped him build the horse. They hopped behind the wall with him. They slaughter people. In that whole sequence, Odysseus doesn't kill a single person. Odysseus is just like, I mean, he kills someone right at the beginning, but once the gates are open and the city starts being laid to waste, he just can only sit there and watch and look in horror as what everyone around him is doing. They're killing, pillaging, probably some other shit. And he's sitting there and he's like, oh my God, what the fuck have I done? I have broke my oath. I don't deserve to go home. And so then, but then everyone is basically saying that it is now his fault for what happened. And it's his fault that their journey home has been cursed. It's all on Odysseus. At least in the movie. I know in the book it's a little different, but in the movie. And I think it's just such an interesting and compelling character because he learns along his journey that he isn't responsible for the decisions that his crewmates made. And that he learned that he, despite doing what he did, can atone for what he's done in a way, or at least move on and move past it in some way. And it's so much more compelling than the actual Odyssey, and that's the best part of this movie for sure. And Matt Damon in that like Troy sequence, his acting was phenomenal. I mean, like, it looked so tragic and it looked sad as fuck, and I was sad as fuck watching it happen. You know, I was like, oh my God. Like, anyway, so that was phenomenal. And that's, you know, also a big complaint of the movie is how is that scene in the fucking Where's My Dad? Like, how is that in the same movie? Anyway, so thematically that was really cool, and I loved Matt Damon in that. Again, Anne Hathaway's acting is unbelievable. I don't buy it in this movie because why on earth is someone speaking like that in this movie? Same with Tom Holland. I thought Tom Holland's acting on the whole was kind of flat until the very end, and then I thought it was a little bit better. Zendaya has a really brief role of Athena, and she plays that role fucking amazing for how short she's in the movie. Um, yeah, I don't know. The Cyclops sequence was really fucking cool. My buddy Jay, Splinker Cup, he loved that sequence. I thought it was pretty good. I liked it. I thought it was cool. I didn't think it was anything like groundbreaking, but I thought it was dope as fuck. I thought the Goliath sequence was cool. I just like, um, the crew members are dying and there's not really any time to process the fact that like people are dying because there's so much in the movie they have to go from thing to thing to thing, and so I just would have liked more time, I suppose. What else? What else? Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's my gross thoughts on the movie. Like on the whole, there's some really high highs. It's just there's a lot of lows, you know? I think the highs definitely completely outweigh the lows, so like still super worth the watch. But it is one of those things where it's like I really do think I could get over some of the choppiness and some of the way that the story is kind of set up if I felt more immersed by the dialogue and the acting. Like I'm so serious. Like that really like I remember looking at my I looked at Jay halfway through the movie and I was like there's one big problem with this movie for me. And I told him I'd tell him after because it's kind of a mouthful obviously. But I was like I'll tell you after, but I like looked at him and I was like yeah dude, there's one big problem with this movie for me and like it's taking me out. You know, so but on the whole, I mean, I still really recommend the movie. I give it like a 7. Like, I didn't think it was groundbreaking. I didn't think it was bad by any means. It's just like, if you can kind of get over that acting and understand that they're like more modern and like Americanizing it, then like, I think you'll actually really like it. I couldn't get over that. And just the acting on the whole was kind of like inconsistent for me, where I was just like, really, how like but I feel like I've yapped about it enough. On the whole, though, I wanted to talk about the Cersei scene. The Cersei scene was amazing. The way that she's like like crafting them into the pigs that she believes that they are is amazing. The sequence with Calypso was like fucked and real, but also like really really good. The end, like the fight at the end, was pretty chill. I didn't love. I talked about this with Jay when we left the theater, but I didn't love how like right at the end when he's like basically got a spear in him from barely living from the fight, he lies in Penelope's arms and he's like, "Oh my god, like I've come home to you, like I'm back to you, my love." And she's like, "You can't die on me. Don't die." And he's like, "No, I'm not going to die." Exile. Like he legitimately lights up when he says exile. And because he killed a bunch of people, he and Penelope just like right off into the sunset, and I'm like, that happened so fast. Like the entire 3 hours of this movie built up to him overcoming his past trauma, and you're telling me the way that he does it is by lying in his wife's arms for the first time in 20 years, and she's like, "Oh my god, I love you, I missed you, please don't pass away on me." And I shit you not, he's lying down and he goes, "No, no, I'm not gonna die. We're gonna exile," and then it cuts to them leaving. I'm like, dude, 3 hours. I sat for 3 hours for their reunion and they get like 2 minutes of on-screen time together. It's like, bro, I don't know. So, but I'm a lot harsher on movies nowadays than I used to be. So, again, I'm saying a lot of negatives, but I highly recommend this movie. It was still super entertaining. It was still beautiful to watch, unbelievable to watch. And I still had like a ton of fun. So, I recommend it. I give it a 7 out of 10 on the Stubby meter. So, um, yeah. Oh, last thing I wanted to say, I'm just going to use a minute of my time to talk about this because I mentioned it earlier in this video. I wanted to glaze Game of Thrones again. So, when I said it was overrated and overhyped when I was watching it for the first time, I still do believe that. Like I definitely I think it's an amazing show, but I don't think it's like the best thing ever. But what I will say, something I didn't appreciate enough, because I'm rewatching it right now. I'm like almost done with season 2, almost to season 3. And the thing that I didn't realize at the time because I was so focused on like following the characters and story and making sure like I knew what was happening, I couldn't appreciate it enough at the time. But the dialogue in Game of Thrones is amazing. The way all of the characters interact, the acting, like the cost, especially after watching the Odyssey, the costume design is amazing. Like the set pieces are incredible in Game of Thrones. So as much as I do think it's overhyped and I think those last seasons are terrible, I just wanted to give Game of Thrones the flowers of like on the rewatch, I'm actually enjoying it significantly better than I was the first time around because now it's like I know what happened and I can more just pay attention to like the other stuff. And so on the rewatch, Game of Thrones for me is getting like a good 8.5 to 9 out of 10. I think it's actually really solid, at least where I'm at right now. Um, and then yeah, I mean I think that's really about it. Yeah.